Hello survivors and welcome to Devlog 6 of Projekt Z Beyond Order. I will later explain why we chose to change the name, but before that we have many other things to discuss. A lot happened in the last 12 months, from the failed Kickstarter campaign to finally having Modus Games as our official publisher. Since then we finally had the time and resources to build a nice company structure, hire great people and get more in-depth with all the game design document and timeline related things. That's also why we decided to go back into pre-production back in August 2022. That gave us the time to finally write the narrative, get all the features onto paper and really get a feel of what we needed to do. That was also the point where we thought that it might make sense to change the name to Projekt Z Beyond Order, but we also think that it makes the name much less generic, and that was also one of the more prominent criticisms we got. But also speaking of a better structure, Projekt Z Beyond Order now has its own Discord server and YouTube channel to ensure that our community only gets the information they want. You can find those links in the description below. But now, let's start with the devlog. During the last few months and multiple playtests, we discovered that the grid inventory we initially designed did not fit the game's flow, so we came up with another iteration. We went from a grid inventory like Escape from Tarkov to a more Dying Light-ish inventory. We think this approach makes it a lot easier to navigate through everything, even on consoles, and allows us to make other in-game UI elements such as the radial menu feel way more integrated. Speaking of the radial menu, this new element allows the player to quickly equip consumables such as health items, grenades, the gas mask, etc. But before that, the player has to assign them to the consumable slots in the new inventory menu. Since we have changed the inventory, we obviously also have to change how the player loots crates, so we came up with the iteration that you see right now. It flows way better with the game's gameplay speed, and we really think that's the way to go. Another thing our UI designer worked on was the wireframes for our HUD, which took us a while since we needed to keep in mind that most of the UI elements can only be seen while the player has the compass out. He also worked on the style guide and the new Projekt Z Beyond Order logo. The style guide explains in detail how we approach everything brand and UI related, which makes it a lot easier to start working on new things and helps us to keep everything consistent. Of course, he also worked on many smaller things, which we will show off in our Discord server. We are also planning to do a lot of surveys in the near future, so again, feel free to join. The links are in the description below. We also made some significant progress in our character department. We have finished our base grunt with all the necessary damage stages and already integrated it into the game. This is the zombie that the player will encounter the most. Although he's not really a threat to the player, those zombies can get very dangerous if they come in hordes, so try to find a way to avoid them. Our character artist Katu is also currently working on the radio zombies we showed in the last devlog, which is one of the more special zombies that you will encounter. Of course, those are not the only zombies Projekt Z has to offer. During our pre-production phase in 2022, we started looking into ways to create zombies no player has seen before, but it still has to make sense in terms of the game's narrative. We all know the typical spitter, screamer, etc. But in the case of Projekt Z, we don't want to follow those types of zombies. We will show you those new types in the next few months and we really cannot wait to see your reaction. We can also finally show you two of our main characters that you can play when the game launches. The first one is Alina. She's a USSR sniper who went to med school at a younger age and will be the medic. She has a prototype medic gun that shoots syringes that can heal other mates but also herself. However, she can also skill her medic gun later to get more ammunition types like adrenaline, iodine and explosive darts. Every syringe gives you advantages and disadvantages, so you have to choose wisely. The second one is Gustav. He's an old Danish fisherman and World War I veteran who is trying to help his comrade who went to the island alone due to some rumors that the German island really exists. He is basically the tank, and with a stationary medicine machine gun, he's a must when you need to defend a position. This MG also has a huge tank attached to it that the player can activate, which releases a gas that slowly kills zombies in it. We will show you the other two when we feel comfortable showing them off, but let me tell you one thing. One of them goes by the name of Hans and has a flamethrower. As you probably know, with every character there's always an introduction mission to see how the character ended up on the island. We also use that to introduce the player to some of the game mechanics. Here's a short montage of what you can expect. Please keep in mind that this voice acting is made by us and we are definitely no voice actors. We also made some progress with the building system in the hideout. We will now build the right UI for it, together with some nice animations to make the building experience a bit more attractive. But this is obviously still very early, and we also have to find a good balance between animations and the building flow, which is very important to us. From a level design perspective, we also made some progress on the hideout island. We started dressing the map with final art assets and started programming the mission structure around it, since you also can find some side missions there. In the last devlog we talked about recruiting NPCs, so we now have our first iteration of this feature. If you take a little bit more time exploring during the missions, you can find them, for example, trapped in a closed subway entrance. In that case, you need to find a key to get them out of there. When you have found the key, you can open the gate and let them out. After that, those NPCs will follow you for the rest of the mission, and to get them into your hideout, you need to escort them through the entire rest of the mission you are playing. Speaking of the missions, let me show you one of the missions we are currently working on. Stefan, our concept artist, David, our narrative designer, and I were in constant contact to figure out what we want to create here. After we made a lot of documents and level design sketches, we went to the concept phase of the map. So Stefan started working on some of the concepts so we get a better understanding of how the map should look like. We then started blocking out the mission and did a lot of internal testing to see if the mission was fun enough to bring it to the next step. When it was, we started dressing the map with final art assets. However, we later decided to add way more vegetation to the level to reduce the view distance, but I also have to admit that it looks way better with more vegetation. However, I always ensured that you could see the point of interest in the distance, in that case the radio tower, since this is where you need to go in that mission. We obviously worked on a lot of other stuff as well, but we will show you that at a later date, so let's get to the next topic. One of the things I'm most proud of is our workbench feature that you can find in the hideout. This is a place where you can upgrade your weapons and put attachments onto them. To build attachments, you first need to find the right blueprints to have the opportunity to craft an item. When you finally find a blueprint that you want, you then need to find the correct building materials to craft it. Projekt Z offers a huge variety of attachments, and you might ask, how is that possible if it's a World War II game? One project on the island was responsible for finding a way to reuse some of the unfinished parts of certain weapons to put them on as many German guns as possible, to not fear a shortage of weapons during the last days of the war. The same almost applies to all the not German weapons, but with the small difference that those weapons were captured and the Germans tried to study them and tried to make changes to make them better. But to achieve such a mechanic, we needed help. So we hired another Stefan to create all of our weapons together with their attachments. Here are a few weapons that are currently being worked on. One of the new weapons is the MP40. You probably saw this one already in the footage we showed before. Another one is the TT-33, a Soviet semi-automatic pistol. Also an awesome weapon we are currently working on is the PPK-42. This one is a prototype submachine gun developed by Kalashnikov. And last but not least, the Becker revolving shotgun, which will be your #1 choice if you really want to see some gore. Our plan is to release Projekt Z Beyond Order with a huge variety of weapons and attachments, and we really cannot wait to see you guys play around with them. We obviously worked on a lot of other stuff, like the new music direction, sounds, animations, environment assets, etc. But it would definitely be too much to show off in this devlog. So go on and subscribe to our new YouTube channel, join our new Discord server, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Or X. Again, thank you so much for your patience, and we will hear from each other very, very soon. Trust me.